All right, admittedly, I'm going to be a little playful with this part. The number's 11. I'm going to be a little bit playful with this. I don't want you to be offended by my playfulness. The material is still good. I feel like I'm repeating myself, which is great because I think that means we're absorbing the information, and I believe we're catching the heart of God and His intention for the kingdom, which makes me excited. I pulled the curtains today, and anyway, so you're gonna have a little bit of a shadow because I'm not doing the video over. Numbers chapter 11. And the people complained, it displeased the Lord. Remember I told you about this. I told you this was going to happen. Well, a lot of you knew this anyway. You know, after all that, after creating the laws, sharing the laws with the people, well, first of all, getting them out of their circumstance, right? Every leader can relate. You know, here I am at 80-something years old. I come out of retirement with my beautiful wife. I come and get you out of Egypt. Showed you what God could do. Showed you. I mean, 2 years. Been showing you what God can do. God have performed every miracle God has told me to perform. Showed you how to work together. Showed you how to build a temple, a mobile one, using the resources that we had, while at the foot of a mountain. And we did it in a year. Or, you know, I mean, come on. You know, showed you leadership skills. We had parties. We had sacrifices. We came together. We had peace offerings. You know, we've been enjoying this life. Everything is good. But when things get just a little bit scarce, oh, now you don't want to roll with a brother. When things get just a little bit tough, there's Numbers chapter 11. Now, all y'all could say, or any of you could say, that was back then. No, these things happen today. There's nothing new under the sun. You knew that was coming, right? And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard, and His anger was kindled. I didn't even bother to look up any of those words, because you know, except for people, because you already know what it is. I don't have to describe it. After all this, 2 years, 2 months, maybe 3 months later, you're complaining. Not just one person, 2 people, 3 people. This is the nation complaining. God heard it. He was angry. In verse 2, and the people cried unto Moses. When Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. Because he was so angry, he dropped fire. Now, only because I want to take out the religion and the unbelievable part for people. fire is heat. Natural fire comes from the sun. So you could think as crazy out there as dropping fire, but man, if the temperature goes up to as an example, I'm not saying this was the temperature, but if you're traveling, the temperature goes up, goes up to 125 degrees or something like that, which has happened in the deserts of California here in California in 2023, 2022. That's called fire. And in that fire, people can get killed. So when Moses communicates with God and says, okay, let's calm things down, clouds can come into play and cool the fire. Or all of a sudden an atmospheric thing can happen. Now, I know you guys think it's crazy to think that way, but these things happen because God is all things, not the guy to upset. I'll say this way. So I guess the question could be, or maybe that's the wrong way to put it, I think some think, yeah, right. Well, really? God is nature, is my point. In control of all things. Nature nature is God. I don't want to take it too far from there because I'll get off on a sidetrack and maybe we can have those conversations later on. But the bottom line is verse 2, and the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. I'll tell you that. Verse 3, and he called the name of the place Taberah, place of the burning, because the fire of the Lord burned among them. Now check this out. Now keep in mind, they were cooking up cows and chickens, cows and pigeons and all kinds of stuff, sacrifices, lambs, that sort of thing. But in the mixed multitude among them fell a lusting. And the children of Israel also wept again and said, who shall give us flesh to eat? What happened to all the stuff they were sacrificing? Pay attention. Please get this. Please. Remember, they had all these great sacrifices just a year ago. You ever use up all your resources? Or maybe it's just me. Have you ever used up all your resources? I have. I've used up all my resources. And then you start asking for help. Except you don't ask, you complain. You don't ask, you complain. Verse 5, we remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onion and the garlic, but now our soul dried away, nothing at all besides this manna. Our eyes, verse 7, and the manna as coriander seed, and the color thereof as the color of bdellium. They're even complaining about how the manna looked. Manna was cool when they got manna and quail before. Manna ain't cool anymore. And the people went about gathering, verse 8, in the ground in the mills and beat in a mortar and baked in pans and cakes, and taste of it was like the taste of fresh oil. But when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it. Then Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families, weeping, every man in his door. And Moses said, in verse 11, Moses said unto the Lord, wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? So Moses starts complaining. Now, this goes all the way down to verse 16. When the leadership starts complaining, and this is in verse 16, if you're going ahead, that's great. But in verse 16, I love God's response. He repeated himself. Patiently repeated himself. Verse 12, I have conceived all this people. Have I begotten them? That thou shouldst say unto me, carry them in thy bosom, as a nursing father bearing the suck. I didn't need all this, is what he's saying. Did I do this? Verse 13, when should I have flesh to give unto all this people, for they weep unto me? They were just celebrating, having parties, Passover, eating lamb. All of a sudden, it's all gone. It's all gone. It's all gone. You know, the most interesting, not the most interesting thing, a thing that I notice with our people, when I say our people, people who believe in Christianity, is when things are great, everybody's cool. When things are not great, everybody complains. All of a sudden, the unity is gone. And it's somebody else's fault. So instead of just taking what little we have and working it out together, let's go back up here so you catch what I'm saying. Let me find where I read it about the families in Numbers chapter 11. Verse 10, then Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families, every man in the door of his tent. No more festivals, no more meetings, no more trumpets, no more coming together and figuring it out. No more princes, no more Levites. Every man in his tent runs back to his camp. Because all of a sudden, there is no corporate family anymore. There's only individual families. Save yourselves. And I understand some of you leaders don't see it that way. But some of you have more than others. Just like it was explained in Exodus when, you had a big lamb and the next door neighbor didn't have anything. And so the neighbor came, the small family, might have been a woman and a child, or a man and a child, or just a man, or just a woman. And they came next to the neighbor. They ate the lamb together in the Passover, and then they burned the rest. They worked together, in other words. Just like, in the burnt offerings and the trespass offerings, the sin offerings, the peace offerings, the people came to the Levitical priests and they laid the animals at their feet, or brought them to their feet. The hands were laid on. Dedication was made. When there's a trespass, you brought your offering to the altar and then made it right with the people. That's also a New Testament thing. All of this is New Testament too, by the way, just spoken differently in Greek. And what's fascinating, because I don't want to use the word interesting again, is that we do the same thing now in the English text when it comes down to dealing with ourselves as a group. God is constantly repeating himself to the leaders. Verse 16. And the Lord said unto Moses, gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be the elders of the people and officers over them, and bring them unto the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand there with thee. You should have known this in the first place from Exodus chapter 24. God is still teaching Moses how to lead. Moses is teaching Aaron how to lead. But Moses is complaining when he had the step. Go to Exodus chapter 24. I forgot where it is. No, I didn't. It's right here. Exodus chapter 24. Verse 1. And he says, and he said unto Moses, come up unto the Lord. This is where they made the covenant. Come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off. Excuse me. And Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come nigh, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice. This is unity. The prescription was made back then on how to petition God for your solutions. And it wasn't just Moses. It was Moses, his three. Same thing for Jesus. Same thing for us. You don't have all the answers. It's not time to get frustrated. It's time to gather your elders together and petition God. And you do it by coming together in Numbers chapter 11, because this isn't Exodus chapter 24. He'd already shown them. Numbers chapter 11, verse 16, and the Lord said, gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel. He didn't say I'm going to bring more quail, or this time I'm going to drop onions and leeks, and this time we're going to fertilize the ground, because you're not meant to stay here. You're going someplace. If we start growing leeks and garlic and onions and all this other stuff here, it makes you a permanent resident on the journey. just to fulfill, what did I say before? Your lust. Your lust. Oh my God, you said you wanted to go to a land. You wanted to get out from under the slavery situation you had in Egypt. Okay, I'm taking you. Meanwhile, can you get to know each other? Can you learn how to work together? You're going to need to know how to do this when you get to the land of Canaan anyway, because they want to give you the land. Can you learn the lessons on your way? No, we want what we had in Egypt. But that came with slavery. I'm giving you freedom, which means we don't have time to plant all these fancy gardens along the way, because we're trying to move. And the Lord said unto Moses, verse 16 again, unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be the elders of the people, officers over them, and bring them unto the tabernacle. He told the leader to talk to the leaders. Verse 17, and I will come down and talk with thee there, and I will take of the spirit which upon thee, and will put upon them. I'm going to multiply you. And they shall bear the burden of the people with thee. And listen, he was teaching them along the way the Levitical tribe thing, I'm going to give you 22,000 people to serve, and by the way, I'm going to get the princes to. He was showing him the process of leadership and multiplication in tough times. In tough times. David had to go through this. Everyone has to go through this. And say unto the people, sanctify yourselves against tomorrow. Verse 18. Against tomorrow, and ye shall eat flesh. For ye have wept in the ears of the Lord, saying, who shall give us flesh to eat? For well with us in Egypt, therefore the Lord will give you flesh. It was almost sarcastic, but I'm not going to call God sarcastic because I know a lot of you don't like sarcasm, but it almost is. You're crying about not having stuff, but I'm going to give you flesh. In verse 19, ye shall not eat 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, neither 10 days, nor 20 days, even a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils. Now, see, I see it as sarcasm. I know you guys don't want to see it that way, because you don't like sarcasm. But, okay, exactly what else? Oftentimes, when I'm in the role of leader, especially when, now I got to tell you something, and I want to be honest with you. I have no problem seeing myself as the man of the house. Don't ask for my leadership and doubt me. Because I have no problems with letting you know either you want the leadership or you don't. If you treat me like a woman, it won't go well for you and probably won't go well for me either. Because I ain't, I'm just telling you the truth about me. So God said to these cats, listen, you want to complain? Cool. I'm going to give you so much meat, because that's what you're complaining about, right? While I'm pulling you out of your circumstance. Oh, but you want meat. I tell you what, I'm going to give you so much meat it's going to come out your nostrils. In other words, if you want me to prove to you constantly on this road, by the way, which I've delivered you on constantly, and I got to keep proving myself to you, it ain't going to be pretty for you either. I'm going to kill you with what you require. And chances are they'll still complain. There are people in my life today that I want to give them all of me, but they only want to take parts of me. And then they want to blame me for what doesn't work. Because you only want part. You don't want the whole. You still want to negotiate your position. God is not interested in your negotiated position. He just wants you to be obedient. So he repeated himself. Verse 20, whole month until it come out your nostrils and be loathsome unto you, because that ye have despised the Lord which among you have wept before him, saying, why came we forth out of Egypt? In other words, why did you deliver me to the point that I'm at right now to leave me right here in the wilderness of Paran? Why? Because you were being abused. So I sent Moses to pull you out of your situation. And it takes time to get you out of your situation. I'm teaching you lessons. I'm bringing you together. Now all of a sudden you guys are running right back to your tents, not having any festivals, not using the silver trumpets I gave you to have the meetings. And then Moses comes to me complaining even after I stop the heat. Fine, I'll give you exactly what you want. I'll give you, give you all the chicken you want until it comes out of your mouth, your nostrils, and you start complaining about it again. Verse 21, and Moses said, the people whom 600,000 footmen, and thou hast said, I will give them flesh, that they may eat a whole month. Shall the flock... And then Moses didn't even pay attention. So, well, maybe that's an unfair statement for me to say, because Moses is in the midst of the situation. Shall the flocks and the herds be slain for them to suffice them, or shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them to suffice them? And the Lord said unto Moses, is the Lord's hand waxed short? So I'm not going to say Moses didn't hear him. I'm going to just say Moses is frustrated. Because God has been doing the miracles through him. God can do anything he wants to. And Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord. And thank God he did that. And gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people and set them round about the tabernacle. The Lord came down, on verse 25, by the way, Numbers 11:25. And the Lord came down in a cloud and spake unto him, and took of the spirit that upon him, and gave unto the 70 elders. And it came to pass, when the spirit rested on them, they prophesied and did not cease, but there remained 2 men in the camp. The name of the one Eldad, and the name of the other Medad, and the spirit rested upon them. And they of them that were written, but went not out unto the tabernacle, they prophesied in the camp. And there ran in verse 27, and there ran a young man and told Moses and said, Eldad, when God loves as a friend is how that is defined, Eldad and Medad, to love with affection, do prophesy in the camp. And Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of Moses, in verse 28, the servant of Moses, of his young men, answered and said, my Lord Moses, forbid them. And Moses said unto him, enviest thou for my sake with God, that all the Lord's people were prophets, that the Lord would put his spirit upon them? And Moses gat him into the camp, and the elders of Israel. And there went forth a wind from the Lord, and brought quails from the sea, and let fall by the camp, as it were a day's journey on this side, and as it were a day's journey on the other side round about the camp, and as it were 2 cubits upon the face of the earth. And I can read on, but that's besides the point. This is going to be the only video on chapter 11. It's important to understand, I believe, that you leaders understand that you can do nothing without a team. And even if your team members are complaining, it is your job to go before the Lord and get direction from the Lord on how to put your 70. And you may not be at the 70 point. Maybe you're just at the 3 point. Remember, Moses had 3 too in Exodus chapter 24. Those 3 weren't counted in the 70. Just like they weren't counted for Jesus. I'm trying to get you to see that there are patterns to all this. If you want to lead, your ministry is first to your leadership. God repeated himself because Moses lost himself. See, you guys don't look at things that way, but I want you to start looking at things that, in a way where you see God's principles over Moses and even Jesus. Video stopped. But it's important that you see these principles. When there was division, you call together the leaders. When there's division, you call together the leaders. When there's division, you call together your leadership. I'm getting a lot of glitches, so I'm going to close this video out. Numbers 11. Fantastic book. CashApp $MrPaulDozier. CashApp $MrPaulDozier. God bless you all.